Alrighty, what's up, cunts? I mean, what's up, folks? Um, hope you're doing well, and hope the reptiloid overlords are, um, you know, dying of, I don't know, gonorrhea or something. But anyway, so today is bright and shiny Tuesday, probably, seemingly, and the Ukrainian things are happening. Everybody's all feisty. I got been getting blocked and unfriended by people for saying that Putin's just as bad as NATO. Fucking scum. Like, I mean, I think, that's just a couple, right? Like most people, like I didn't unfriend or block anybody, even if they're fucking shilling for Putin or shilling for fucking Zelensky or NATO, whatever the fuck. I'm not unfriending them. I just troll them. And then they unfriend me and block me. But be that as it may, most people are not doing that. Most people, I think a lot of people are catching on that Putin is not the superhero that people want to pretend he is. And then it's also funny all the people that are like super populist, anti-establishment on everything, but for some reason are lockstep with the media on this. I have no idea what that's about. Um, Maybe they just have a hard on for war of any kind, or I don't know. It's weird. Um, so let's see. Oh yeah, I was gonna read this thing, and I like the Egyptian, story of the destruction of mankind, and it includes the creation of America. Um, Seemingly, either the creation of America or the building up of America. And so, it's, I get out my backpack here to read it. Let's see, is there anything else going on in the world today? I don't know. I mean, they say like Moderna is still like collapsing, free fall, and maybe Pfizer's next. So that's good. Um, but it's like, yeah, it's just important that we don't become some, or I mean, even just the concept of we, that we all do everything, like all the populists and you know so fucked. Like it's so deliberate how they destroyed the word resistance, or how they co-opted the term resistance, so now we can't call ourselves resistance without sounding like yuppie shit-lived fucking neocons. But um all right, so this I already read this, I guess, but it's like I didn't really understand it while I was reading it. I think I got to the good part just at the end, so I didn't like have time, and you know so it's about, it talks about how they destroyed mankind for like um because the people said that Re, the sun god, this is the Egyptian story of the destruction of mankind by Re, and it's because people were saying that he looked old and that his hair was like unto real lapis lazuli. And then, so he's just like, he said, that's like blasphemy. They're blaspheming against me. So he just killed everybody, or at least all the ones he could, or whatever, I guess. And so that's probably like the Younger Dryas impact event, like 14,000 years ago, I guess. All right, I'm gonna find this shit. All right, here it is. So it says, so this is the, I think this is kind of the heart of, this is the meat of the creation of America's story. And the majesty of this God, let's see. And then said the majesty of this God, your transgressions of violence are placed behind you, for the slaughtering of the enemies is above the slaughter of sacrifice. This came into being the slaughter of sacrifice. And but I think a lot of this, I think most ancient sacrifice was animal sacrifice. I think this idea that all the pagans were sacrificing humans all the time is like a very a very clever Christian lie. Helped the justify the takeover of the Americas, and the demonization of anybody that's not Christian, or at least monotheistic or whatever. Fucked up teeth. Anyway, don't look at my teeth. So I will not permit this. So this has to do also with alcohol, because Hathor, it's like, it's through as Hathor that Re destroys mankind. And Hathor is like the cow, sky cow, who represents also like the sycamore tree, I believe, and which was used, the sycamore, something like that, and it was used to, I think it's the sycamore was used, it's like the, it's basically the fig tree, I think, and the figs were used to ferment wine. So so she was like the goddess of alcohol. And so I think like this event, whether it was the Younger Dryas impact event or whatever it was, that was celebrated or commemorated with rituals involving beer. And yeah, I think it was the idea that she was like almost gonna, like Ray was almost gonna kill everybody as in the form of Hathor, and then but then became drunk and fell asleep and did, and so not everybody was killed. So then that's like why people drink beer at like celebrations of Hathor, and I don't know, something like that. I think it's connected into the rituals. Like almost all this stuff is directly tied to rituals. And probably, I'm guessing this was sung, or like a lot of this was sung. Like these are probably hymns. I don't know honestly, but a lot of ancient Egyptian and other religious texts were basically hymns. And all right, so anyway, and then said the majesty of this God, your transgressions, yada yada, sacrifice. And the majesty of this God said unto Nut. So so the sun god Re is saying unto Nut, the sky goddess, who represents either all the stars or at least the Milky Way. And let's see. So it says, and the majesty of this God said unto Nut, I have placed myself upon my back in order to stretch myself out. So See, Newt is the sky, but she's the night sky, right? So during the day, like she's in the underworld basically. And um, so for Ray to, um, let's see, I have placed myself upon my back in order to stretch myself out. What then is the meaning of this? It meaneth that he united himself with Newt. So, thus, and united himself, that means he like fucked Newt. Um, and like I think like Osiris fucked Newt. That's how they created Isis and Nephthys and Horus and etc. Seth. And so yeah, they were all, banging the sky, and thus came into being dot 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 dot. It just says like ellipses, so it's probably the name of America. It's probably like Amentet Neferet or something like that. The beautiful West, or Tuat, or the Aker, or I don't know. But like to understand this lying on his back thing, because it's not necessarily immediately comprehensible, but I like based on the, especially like the iconography of it helps, because there's images, like basically whenever a god is lying on their back, it means they're going to the underworld. And in a sense it's like they're retrograde, I guess, so maybe that overlaps. I'm not sure exactly what retrograde is, but it might overlap with retrogradness. But like during the day, like let's say we're in Egypt, um, during the day in Egypt, the the sun god, is shining down on us, and so his face is towards us. He's like facing us from up above in this, symbolism. And so it's when he like goes down and then he curls around to the underworld, then he's on his back because he's facing up to the underworld, like to America. So from us, you know, hypothetically in Egypt, um, in the underworld, he's upside down because he's shining the opposite direct. Instead of shining down on us, he's shining up on America, vis-a-vis our orientation. So, this dog. Yeah, I live with a dog that barks at me all fucking day. Honestly, like dog people, if they really think that if a dog barks at you, you suck, okay, fuck you then. I'm that person. I'm the person that dogs bark at. Not really a fan, but only because they may they decrease my quality of life by a lot. I literally am barked at like in my house by this shitty dog that my fucking housemate got. But dog people, they don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. I mean, not, of course, I guess everybody's a dog person, but like the hardcore dog people who are like, if my dog barks at you, that's your fault. Fucking sociopaths. Anyway, sorry, I just had to say that because this is my life. This fucking dog barks at me all day. And like, I did a post on Facebook saying that. I'm like, yeah, all the dogs fucking bark at me, and the dog people probably think I'm evil, and got like no reacts. I'm thinking like, I mean, either it was pushed to the bottom of the algorithm, or people were like, it's too close to home. Or they're like, oh shit, this guy, dogs bark at this guy. Oh fuck, I better block him now. This little fucking yap dog barked at him. Fucking little. Anyway, um, be that as it may. So, so you understand, like, going on his back, that means he's just going to the underworld. Totally makes sense. And he's basically retrograde. Because, I mean, retrograde, I think it means traveling like the opposite direction. So technically, when he's under the earth, he is retrograde. Um, what is the meaning of this? So that means when he's in the underworld, he's banging Newt. And then he also goes into her mouth. Yeah, he goes into her mouth, at least in maybe in another symbolic tradition. He enters her mouth at the beginning of the night, and as he enters the underworld, he enters her mouth, and then as he exits the underworld in the daybreak, he exits from her vagina, I believe. So she like eats him and then gives birth to him every night. So, it's symbolism. I mean, people who want to get so hung up on I mean, even the ancients who got pretty hung up on the details and the symbols, not anything like modern people who get all caught up in this shit. Like, they don't understand that this is all symbols and you could switch every single symbol. You could change every god into a different gender, different species, anything. Doesn't matter. It's just symbols. So, as long as it serves a purpose to explain the exact cycles of the planets and the Earth and etc. You know, doesn't really matter the specifics of it, of the mythological medium. So he goes to he's going to the underworld, basically. He's going to where America is. He's on his back. He unites with Newt. Thus came into being da 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 da. And then it doesn't say. So that's either something redacted or they can't translate it or it's missing from the text. But my guess is, I don't know. My guess is either they can't translate it or it's redacted. Then said the majesty of this God, I am departing. So this is Re, the sun. I am departing from them, i.e., from men. So that was, you could say maybe this was before people had come to America. So I don't know when that was, 200,000 years ago. Or, I mean, they say there might be evidence of people in America like over 100,000 years ago. So, hard to know, but like in theory, this you could say like this is a time when people only lived in Afro-Eurasia, which was basically the time when humanity was much more diverse. There were Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo denisovan, or Denis, and others. I think the hobbits, the Floriensis or something in like Indonesia or someplace. So, but so he's saying at that time, mankind was all in Afro-Eurasia. And so the sun is like, peace, I'm leaving. And I mean, it's interesting. A lot of the creation stories, I think, are referring to things that happen every single day. So it's like every day the universe is like killed and reborn in a sense. Let's see. So then the majesty of this God looked forth from its interior. He says, then said the majesty of this God, I am departing from them. So he's departing from Afro-Eurasia, i.e., from men. And he must come after me. He must come after me who would see me. So he's saying anybody who wants to see where the sun goes when the sun leaves. has to follow him. And they must come after him. They must sail west. So this implies that the first, or at least, gives the possibility that the first contact with America was transatlantic as opposed to, Beringian or Trans-Pacific, which is very, makes a lot of sense, just seeing how much population was concentrated in the Atlantic realm and just the relative ease with which one can cross over. If you either go with the Gulf Stream or you go north across like Iceland and Greenland. So yeah, I am departing from them. And so it may be that the sun worshippers, like the followers of Re, who are said to be the people of the priests of the braided lock or something, because they had like wore braided locks in their hair. Or maybe their head would be shaved and they'd just have one braided lock. Kind of similar to Horus the Younger, and kind of similar in a way to like some of the I guess the Orthodox Jews, or I forgot the name. The ones that have like the kind of tassels, hair, like locks, curly locks hanging down. That could be at least indirectly descended from this tradition. So yeah, chances are this relates to people of the solar cult following Re, or it might relate to that, following Re across the Atlantic to the west to see him when he's on his back, when he's shining retrograde, quote unquote. Thus came into being da 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 da. So chances are what it's saying came into being is that some tradition of visiting the underworld. I'm not really sure. But that, again, it's either they can't read it or it's missing. They can't translate it, it's missing, or they redacted it because it was inconvenient. Then the majesty of this god looked forth from its interior. So the interior of America, probably saying, gather together men for me and make ready for me an abode for multitudes. Thus came into being dot 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 dot. So it could be, there's a chance that the first thing he said, he united himself with Newt, thus came into being. Maybe there it says Aker, which means the below. It's basically the below world where America is. And then it's like there's Akit and Aker. So Akit, there's two Akits, like the east, or maybe there's four Akits, like for the four directions, but it's basically the horizon. Whereas, and it includes like parts of the underworld probably, or it's like the borderland. But then the underworld, at least in the middle between the two Akits in the underworld, is Aker, which I think is especially where the sun is at midnight, like directly antipodal. Gather me, and so yeah, that's probably what that's saying. It's creating the Aker, or there's a good chance that's what that ellipses is. I'm departing from them. Those who would come see me thus came into being. And yeah, that might be like the kind of tradition of sailing west. Then the majority of this majesty of this god looked forth from its interior, saying, gather together men for me, and make ready for me an abode for multitudes. Thus came into being. and then it's again it's ellipses. But my guess is, if anything, or my best guess is that that would be Amentet Neferet or some other name for America. So that's the, first it was creating the place where America was then put, and then it's creating the method of reaching that place, and then it's putting America in that place, because previously maybe it would, at least in this kind of symbolic tradition, previously it was just sea. So, gather together men for me and make ready for me an abode for multitudes. Thus came into being probably Amentet Neferet. And his majesty, life, health, and strength be to him, said, let a great field, Sekhet, be produced, Hetep. Thereupon Sekhet Hetep came into being, and the god said, I will gather herbs, Arat, with therein. Thereupon Sekhet Aru came into being, and the god said, I will make it to contain as dwellers things ket like stars of all sorts. Thereupon the stars, Akeka, came into being. Then the goddess Nut trembled because of the height. The goddess Nut. So Nut, it's the nighttime. So she's the goddess of the night, and so she presides over the underworld. Um, but that's a funny thing. It's like, how can Ray travel? Because like in an Egyptian night, I would think Nut would be in Egypt, but I think it's that there's two Nuts basically, like one on each side. I don't know. It's symbolic, so it's you will go wrong if you try to treat it as literal. Of course, like every pretty much every religion, like there's what is it, like Jesus said he speaks in Proverbs, or in riddles basically, because otherwise uh it's pearls before swine. But I'm not sure. I don't think that's necessarily the reason that the ancients made it so. I mean, maybe it is, but I think the main reason it's also weird and symbolic is just because it's symbolic. That's what it is. It's like symbols, just like words are symbols. Like none of the air coming out of my mouth inherently means anything any more than this, story about Ray and Newton, whatever. It means something because, you know, it's used systematically to convey, specific ideas. Um, so there's a great field, Sekhet Hetep. So Sekhet Hetep might be either in South or Central America, or it could be like throughout America. Because I know on the ancient maps of America, like the ancient Egyptian maps, the books of two ways, um, Sekhet Hetep it's on the east coast of, or at least it's the label for it is on the east coast in either around Panama. It's hard to tell if it's supposed to correspond to Panama or South America, but somewhere around there. And there's something there's the mistress of offerings. It mentions on the map. So I'm not sure who that is. Maybe Mott or Newt or Isis. And or Amentet Neferet. And the field of Arat on the Sekhet Hetep, and I will gather Arat therein. The Sekhet Aru came into being. So the field of reeds, like the Mayans and the Aztecs and stuff, they referred to, I think, Teotihuacan as the place of reeds.